again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic? Let's do it. What's the strangest thing you've ever heard someone say? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I work in a deli, and some lady asked me to cut her ham extremely thin to the point of seeing through it. I heard her justify it as, so you can get rid of the ham taste. I still think about this one. I was a camp counselor during the summers in high school and often had the youngest group of boys, usually 8 to 9 years old. While we were at the lake catching frogs and tadpoles and stuff, one kid picked up a bag with the group's frogs and spun it around and then slammed it into the ground very hard, killing the frogs. My co-counselor kinda yelled at him like, "Why would you do that? You killed them." The kid responded with this weirdly sick smile. "I kill things all the time. I kill rats, I kill squirrels, I kill snakes, I kill dogs. I even killed a cat once when we caught it." Everyone was kind of stunned by this. Even the other kids were creeped out and nobody seemed to respond for a long few seconds. My co-counselor and I were like, okay, that's enough lake for today. This kid was weird. He didn't have many friends, and we thought he was bullied because he got picked on early on that summer, and we later found out beat the shit out of the kid who picked on him. But it turned out the kids knew better than us, that he was a complete psycho. I don't know what happened to him. He moved away, so didn't come back to camp after that year, but I'm convinced he'll end up in a news headline someday. Met a fellow teacher who was around 67 for coffee, and he casually said, "When I was 30, I was sleeping with a load of 13-year-olds. They were just throwing themselves at me." I left shortly after, walked back to the school and informed the owner that if this man taught children I'd quit on principle. Turns out he'd already been banned for pinching a kid's nipple. We had a recording for an international commercial where I work, and my colleague asked me if I've ever been in television. I said yes, a couple of times, but nothing major. How about you? In which he replied with, "Once, when my friend was murdered and they tried to catch the killer." I was working at a gas station when I was 17 or 18. The corporate offices were directly behind us, so they would come and get lunch and snacks from time to time. One man in particular always came to my register. One day, when his wife stepped away to grab something, he casually said to me, "I want to tie you up, throw you in the back of my truck and drive away." It was the creepiest thing anyone has ever said to me, and the way he said it so casually and nonchalant, I quit very quickly after that. At Macy's, 2 teen girls. Women over 30 have the ugliest elbows. OMG, I know, very disturbing. I always ask my mom to wear long sleeves when we go out to eat. When I was walking to my front door, my neighbor had their window open and was scalding their 3-year-old adopted child. She was howling, crying, "Do you want mommy to send you back?" When younger, I worked at a pool and had to lifeguard senior aerobic classes. Most participants were 65 plus. "Where's so-and-so?" "Oh, he won't be here. His wife was put into hospice." Well, I feel bad for him, but we need some more single men around here. He's not bad looking. He has a retirement too. I don't like animals. They make me do mean things. My cousin, who I met twice, then never again because we found out he was killing kittens from his dad's farm for fun and progressively moved to chickens and eventually got caught mid-attack on one of the hens. The cousin was 16 when I met him. I was in my early 20s and nearly towered over me. Dude scared the hell out of me, not gonna lie. Something I once heard a passing stranger say for which I have no context. He wears a scarf around his neck so you can't see where he's decaying. I've been curious for years, and it annoys me that I'll never know. Looks like Jim's a naughty boy, but at least he confessed to his wife, unless she was a part of it, of course. Wild. I worked medical health equipment delivery in college for a short amount of time. I was delivering some equipment from the company to an old, sweet couple. Husband was wheelchair-bound with severe issues. As I was doing the assembly within earshot of them, the old man was groaning, saying he had given up and was ready to check out. His old lovely wife was sitting there rubbing his face, giving him words of encouragement. "Come on, Jim. You're the strongest man I've ever known. You'll come out of this. You're a fighter and survivor. Remember who you are. You're the man that killed 3 people, and the cops didn't catch you." I pretended I didn't hear that, and noped it out of there. An ex after I ended things. "I don't understand. If I want to be in a relationship with you, but you don't want to be in a relationship with me, why do you get to win?" I'm a pre-K teacher, and one day when I was doing lessons, one of my 4-year-old boys asked me if I kill small animals. Horrified, I said, "No, why would you ask me that?" And he said, "I want to do that, because I'm not big enough to kill people yet." Had to report it to my admin staff. They called a meeting with his parents. The parents just laughed it off. I'll be looking for that kid's name on the news in 15 years. Sitting on the bus with these 2 youngish lads behind me around 19 or 20. A young woman got on the bus and sat in front of me. One dude turns to the other dude and says, "Oh shit, I'd hold a knife to that." Loud enough for me and the girl to hear. She gets off a few stops later and they do too. It's a few stops early for me, but I got off as well just to make sure they didn't follow her. Thankfully they didn't. I wish I just said something at the time, and always regret that I didn't. I probably would these days, though. A boy in my school went around bragging about how he took part in sexual activity with his sister, who, by the way, blushed whenever he said that. It was so disturbing that we informed our professor. There was this dude in high school who ended up getting arrested and is now a RSO for jacking off in class while putting his hand on a girl's shoulder. But before that, there was one day he was talking about how annoying a certain teacher was, and verbatim he said, "I wish I could travel back in time to when she was a little girl, choke her and R her, and say, 'Your future self did this to you. You deserve it.'" I was on a train one time, and across the aisle from me was a young father, his girlfriend or wife, and their 2 twin baby girls in a double stroller. A dude gets on the train, and it's like a reunion. They're doing the whole, "Hey, how you been?" thing. He's kneeling on the ground, playing with the girls and talking to them in a baby voice. Dad says to him, "Hey, you ever see so-and-so?" And without missing a beat, drops the baby voice and say, "We had to F him up. Bashed in his knees with the butt end of a shotgun." Goes right back to telling the girls how cute they are. Mom and Dad didn't seem fazed at all. I didn't get the whole story, but it sounded like snitches get stitches kind of thing. I had this Indian classmate, and we would occasionally cycle back home together from school. During one of these trips home, he casually dropped that he killed someone in a car accident back in India. He got arrested, but since he knew the right people, and there he managed to have someone take his place in prison for him for the right price. To be fair, the guy was a bit crazy, but this still shocked me. Was at an end-of-season event for my kid's baseball team when he was little. The coaches brought Italian ice for everyone. Mom had just served her kids and husband and comes back with her own. As she's sitting down to eat, I hear her husband loud whisper behind her something like, "Absolutely not. You don't need any more calories." I just watched her face fall. I can't imagine what their marriage must look like behind closed doors and what life must be like for her. Heartbreaking. Note that this woman was already probably a size 2 at most, so this was not a scenario where there was serious weight-related health problems. This guy was just a jerk, and this really wasn't the first time that season, but his reminders that they aren't living up to his standards were usually aimed at his kids on the field. I try to assume the best of people, but that guy sucked. Rode a taxi. Radio was discussing LGBT. Driver started complaining that his daughter is a lesbian. He said he's planning on getting her art so she can feel what a man can do for her and change her mind. When I worked at Applebee's, a couple of the other servers also worked as dancers at the local strip club. I got pretty close with a woman named Sun. I was a young, attractive guy, and she was in her 30s with kids. She would flirt heavily with me and propose sex in the walk-in, but I would always just say thanks, but I'm not a public sex guy. And she would just shrug and say, okay. All this to say was very uninhibited sexually, but knew I wasn't interested in a sexual relationship and was okay with that. A couple of months go by. One morning, we're doing prep work for the day shift and just talking about our childhoods. Well, I was rambling on about growing up Mormon and leaving the church. Eventually, I shut up, and she told me about her childhood. Her mom was a teenager who got knocked up by a roughneck. They all lived together with her mom's parents, who were by all accounts decent, loving people. Her mom and dad were into drugs, and her mom died in a DWI accident when she was 5. She stayed with her dad in the area until she was about 9, and her maternal grandparents died of old age. Her dad took the money from the inheritance and bought a house in the woods, where he used as his personal sex slave for the next 8 years. At 16 or 17, her father died of complications from alcoholism, and she was left totally destitute and essentially uneducated since her dad never registered in school. School means guidance counselors and social workers. So she moved to Florida, where at least she wouldn't freeze to death, and found work where she could. She said all of this to me as if it were talking about the weather or telling me a story about getting a tire changed. The most tragic true story I'd ever heard was simply life as she knew it. Worked on an island in Southeast Asia a while back. Someone came into work and asked to put up posters. After she left, I saw that they were a friend of hers. She had been missing for 3 weeks from an island nearby, a tourist. A boss of mine, a local man from the capital city who grew up in gangs, said, "It's either he doesn't want to be found or he's dead. Either way, they'll never find him." I said, "What makes you say that?" He looks at me with a menacing grin. "The best way to kill someone around here is to use truck tires. You take them to the jungle, beat them, tie them up, and burn them. Burn so hot there's nothing left." I don't think he's ever done it before, but he definitely knows people that have. Many years ago, I was an assistant manager at a tobacco shop. We had one customer, I can't remember his nickname, but I do remember his name, Ricky Ray, last name. He was a Vietnam era vet. I had asked him, one of our other customers, she worked at the VA, about him because his behavior was so off. I got out of him that he was stateside and was a Marine. When the VA lady got back to me, she said there were several Ricky Ray last names from that time that were stateside, and 2 had been seen since for mental health. My Ricky Ray last name was one of them. I had asked her to check up on him because he came in one day like normal, but his clove biddies that he said he kept the spirits away, but we were out. He conversationally started telling me about the demon woman that slept in his bed sometimes. She wasn't a human. She would come into his apartment sometimes and break his plates and sleep in his bed. He said if he could get the magic from the biddies, she's start letting the bugs out of her stomach, and then he'd be in real trouble. He said, "I guess I'll have to go home and kill her," as if someone was accepting the fact that they'd outgrown their favorite shirt and needed to buy another. Turned out, Ricky Ray was batshit, but never violent. Started a new job and struck up a conversation with a fellow employee. Made small talk, and she told me about her grandchildren. She then says that she tells them if anyone misbehaves while they're at her house, she will punch them in the face. I thought she was joking, but no. She said it again. "I will punch them in the face." What? I was in an accident once and was hospitalized. The accident left me severely disfigured. I was out of my mind on pain meds when I arrived at the hospital and told my family to call my girlfriend and let her know about what happened where I was. My mom called my girlfriend, and my sister, knowing the particulars of my life, called my ex. Neither knew the other had called, and both ended up showing up. They arrived within an hour of one another while I was asleep. Since someone was there with me, I gave my family a chance to go home and take a break. So I walk up to my ex and my girlfriend talking to one another. Obviously, my girlfriend was mad as my ex was there, and things got heated between the two. My ex, being level headed, suggested that they step into the hall since I was half awake and in no condition to continue to deal with the drama. As they're arguing in the hall, voices are being raised until finally a nurse comes to rein the situation in. The nurse, breaking them up, my girlfriend, leaves. As she was leaving, she yelled, "You can have his ass. It's not like I want to be with some burnt up, scarred dude anyway. He's effed." At this point, I was still in bedridden and hadn't seen a mirror. I was aware my body was effed up, but I had no idea what it actually looked like. Hearing that was such a gut punch, and it really messed with my head at the time.